SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae has put hundreds of millions back into the hands of Mississippi's citizens, expanding the state's affordable college and career savings program and also returning record amounts of unclaimed money. Check out how Treasurer David McRae's office can help you, your business, or your organization. Treasury.ms.gov.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music. What's up there, Rhino?
Howdy, howdy.
We're all buckled up, ready to go. It's primary day across America, and certainly in many states, and even out there in Los Angeles. They got a hotly contested mayoral race. I'm actually feeling like old Spencer Pratt has a chance. You see, isn't he number 2, I think, in the polls, just compared to the Democrat candidates? I think that's the last I saw. He got a chance. Man, what a breath of fresh air that would be for Angelenos. Because Karen Bass, let's just be honest, she's incompetent. She's terrible. Terrible. And heck, isn't it true that at one point she was in the discussion for president, I think, Karen Bass? And, of course, that kind of died down. But should be something with the elections today. This is the one that really caught my attention, is the California governor's race. And here's why. We've talked multiple times on this program about the enormous sums of money being invested in political races. There's no question about it. But Tom Steyer, you seen this, Rhino? $213 million of his own dough. That's what he's spending on his candidacy for governor in the golden state of California. He, of course, this is nothing. He's a billionaire, and he's very liberal. How does Bernie Sanders reconcile that? You got a liberal billionaire who pretty much aligns with Bernie Sanders' policy positions and principles, and we got a new one that he just talked about yesterday. Sanders released a new piece of legislation. But this guy's a billionaire. I thought he said we should not have any billionaires. How does that work? The last time a candidate, I know you're thinking about that.
Well, no, I mean, it's real easy. You can only be a billionaire if you donate large swaths of money to their little militant activist groups.
Okay, I got
It's the only way those losers actually survive. They don't do anything productive. They have no actionable skill set. They're literally worthless wastes of oxygen. And the only way they make a living is making everybody else's lives a living hell.
Man, ain't that the truth? So the last time, well, this has set a record. I said 213. It's now up to 216 million. Who's counting at that point? 216 million to run for governor in California. And the in second place, with respect to money spent, I'd forgotten about this. 2009-10 cycle, Meg Whitman She, the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, she dropped $144 million. Now, Steyer's run for president, and he's invested a significant amount of his own money funding his political aspirations, but he hadn't been elected yet. Kind of makes you wonder that maybe you need something other than just money to win. But I don't know. What do people think about this massive amount of dough being spent on these political races to the point where if you're not significantly wealthy, you just about can't run. Certainly in a state like that where you can't outpace, you can't hope to have similar funding as somebody like a Tom Steyer. Now, as we said, there's a lot more to it than just money. But, man, he is absolutely dominating in terms of money being spent on a political race. It's just mind-boggling. And we're just in the primaries. We hadn't gotten to the general. Spending a small fortune is Tom Steyer. But we shall see. The nation will be watching with angst and anxiety, I would say, what happens there. Talking about Bernie Sanders earlier. Oh, geez. Ever the socialist is the octogenarian senator from Vermont. What does he say, Rhino?
Give me all your money.
He ain't kidding. He says that artificial intelligence is a public resource and that Americans should own half of it. He has a bill which he has introduced.
The only way that works is if you completely nuke copyright, trademark, all that.
Yeah.
If you do that, then yeah, it might as well be a public resource.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that, but it's a service is what it is.
At that point, it's just who can provide the better service.
Exactly. You mean free market competition there so that the consumers choose? What a novel idea. That's worked pretty good for a couple hundred years. So he's introducing the American Artificial Intelligence Sovereign Wealth Fund Act. And this measure would give the public a direct ownership in the largest artificial intelligence companies in the country. It would create a sovereign wealth fund through a one-time 50% tax on the profits of the various AI companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, etc., but paid with something far more valuable than that, the stock. So that's what they would do. They would invest their own stock that essentially transfer that ownership, 50% of it, to the American public. That is socialism central planning on steroids. Nothing meets the standards of socialism and central planning more than this concept. The government, 50%. You guys just got to cough up 50% and give it to essentially the government. And then the government, he's at least proposing somehow conveying that. But you're not going to get stock certificates in the mail. He's going to confiscate their wealth, their earnings. That's what he wants to do. And have a seat.
We'll have a whole hierarchy and infrastructure of little worthless wastes of oxygen, sucking up tax dollars, doing absolutely nothing. But that's the Democrat way. And that's the liberal way. Continue to grow government and just make it into a jobs program for people who have no other skill set except to sit on their butt and twiddle their thumbs all day.
So true. That's absolutely so true. And the other thing that bothers me, of course, is that he wants a seat at the table in the boardroom. Imagine Bernie Sanders making business decisions. Forget the technology decisions, the business decisions. Sure, these are AI companies, and you have to be cognizant of that when you're making business decisions, but there are a ton of business decisions. Anybody that has any stock holdings knows that whenever you get proxy votes, you look at the issues you're voting on. They're not questions about what do we do about this technology and that technology. That's not part of the governance function. Certainly is up for discussion in a board setting, absolutely. But Bernie Sanders being involved in those decisions, can you say disaster? Really scary. Man, of course, I don't think this legislation's going anywhere. It's just consistent with his ideology that government should be in control of the private sector. Actually, everything in our life. That's the idea. And in this case, he literally wants government to control these companies. So we went from...
Why do you need two plaid toilet paper, comrade?
That's right.
Are you a capitalist?
Oh, gosh. We're going to take a break right now from the Element Wealth Studios. Casey Dixon, Director of Marketing and Public Relations with Mississippi Blood Services. At 10:35, it's Representative Steve Lott at 12:05. Please stay with us. This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
We're rolling. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
Awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Speaking of education, that's something we dig into a lot on this program. And there is a recent report, you probably saw it, Rhino, concerning the Crescent City of New Orleans. And the city, honestly, was plagued with failing schools inside the city limits. Orleans Parish, of course, is where New Orleans is located, but inside the city limits of New Orleans, which is all but an island, right, Rhino, when you look at the way water surrounds it, the Mississippi River, the lake. It's almost a peninsula, so to speak, kind of a circular or crescent-shaped peninsula, that formed by, of course, the river itself as it winds through the Crescent City. But I guess I didn't realize this. I knew that they were an early adopter of charter schools in Louisiana, and in particular in New Orleans. I did not know that after Hurricane Katrina, which devastated the schools in New Orleans and a lot of other stuff too, but they completely reconstituted the school system, the public school system in New Orleans, as all charter schools. First in the nation, maybe the only in the nation, all charter school district. So here are the results. For those, by the way, Rhino, who say that this doesn't work, that it produces poor results, 99th percentile nationally in reading growth, 98th in math growth, the only state in America beating pre-pandemic levels in both subjects. Oh, but this doesn't work. So what's happening here, these are public charter schools. This is public money that, you know, it's like the devil. Oh, my gosh, the public money, whatever the hell that is going to the charter schools. So the charter school, all charter school district is performing better than it did pre-pandemic. And there are countless reports, you and I have talked about them before, about how public education in this country has declined rather sharply post-pandemic. Because the stupid labor unions, the teachers' unions, sent them all home and wouldn't let them come back, and they're relegated to an education via a computer screen. That works for some kids. We're all wired different. But for the most part, you need some human interaction. Can you augment it with technology? 100%. I totally believe that. But you know what was happening? They were indoctrinating them and propagandizing them with a bunch of garbage. And that's what woke up parents and families in this country. It's what got Glenn Youngkin elected in Virginia. And there were numerous other changes in elected office as well as a result of parents, families recognizing the garbage that was being peddled and thrusted down their children's throats at home during the pandemic. But New Orleans, after Katrina, they just decided, let's rebuild this thing. Let's start over. All charter schools. So here's what you're essentially doing. It's the government paying private operators to educate the public. Don't we pay private companies to provide services to government, the people, all day long? How is this different? It's not. It's absolutely not. So you can't say, well, they're competing with all the public schools. There ain't no more, because we figured out this is a better model in the city of New Orleans. It's just something to at least think about. But that's why I think it's important that families are empowered with these decisions. It's worked out pretty well in New Orleans. Now, it may not work in every school district in America or in Mississippi. Nobody's suggesting that. But I think the idea of loosening the restrictions concerning where a charter school can locate is good policy. And let the market and the people figure that out. Not government. Not Bernie Sanders, who wants to control the AI technology industry. It's what he wants. I just found this fascinating and had to share that. This is a relatively recent news. It's pretty cool. The Trump administration also has lowered tariffs to boost investment in the industrial economy, and that starts with tariffs on farm and construction equipment from 25% to 15%. Concerns about how tariffs are affecting, and that's a big thing here in Mississippi. So kudos to the White House for recognizing that this is still an issue. Harvesters, forklifts are listed as two of the equipment items where farmers and industries that use forklifts will certainly recognize the reduction, and hopefully that will cause prices to fall so that they can make more investments and expand and grow. You may have seen that here in Mississippi, a court has ruled that a company who seeks to provide power behind the grid to data centers has ruled that they can do this without PSC oversight. So it's just a private contract between the power provider and the consumer of that power. And this will, of course, enable and I think attract others who seek to provide power behind the grid. And it's also fair to say, Rhino, that most of these data centers would also likely have some sort of connectivity to the grid so that they would have both for resiliency and not just rely on one or the other. Just like if your primary power is the grid, is the public utility, then you would have backup generators is the typical approach to that. But this kind of flips that. Your primary power would be localized behind the grid, and your backup power would be the grid. So this is interesting. Prado AI, this is the same organization that built the Topgolf facility in Ridgeland and also operates a hotel not far from our position here in central Mississippi. So this is a big step for Gabriel Prado and his company. They plan to jump into the fray to compete in this data center explosion and provide power. And look, power is the new currency in economic development. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And Mississippi's well positioned in that regard because we have abundant natural gas that has become the most common way and the most common fuel, at least in this part of the country, to generate electricity. We're blessed with a bunch of it. That is one commodity of petroleum product that this country produces way more than it consumes. And we still got a bunch more under our feet, including right here in the state of Mississippi. And I caught an article recently that was really fascinating about our use of power, and in particular, our use of oil. And it turns out we may not need as much as we thought just because they're tracking what is a declining demand, they being industry analysts. Higher gas prices driven by the war, not so much here in this country, but you've seen this, Rhino, electric vehicles in other countries where gas is scarce and outrageously expensive. Again, not here in this country. It hasn't really become as prominent as a replacement to the traditional combustion engine powered vehicle. But in Europe and Asia, where the situation with the gas there is totally different than it is here, is outrageously expensive and also in short supply, more and more in those countries are converting to EVs. The other thing that where the EVs maybe make more sense, they don't drive as far, right? They got shorter distances. It's a much more concentrated population. In some of those European countries, it's like people from all directions, right, from border to border.
Yeah, European considers themselves world travelers if they travel the same distance a Mississippian would to go see a Braves game.
That's exactly right. We're coming right back with Casey Dixon, Director of Marketing and Public Relations at Mississippi Blood Services.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're pleased to welcome now Casey Dixon. She's the Director of Marketing and Public Relations for Mississippi Blood Services. Casey, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, give us the update from Mississippi Blood Services. Where do we stand with respect to the inventory of blood and the needs we have there?
Well, we've talked about it all season long, starting in January, that the decline is still prevalent. It is still there, and now that we're going into the summer months, it's increasing. So people are starting to travel. People are trying to get out and move around and enjoy the holidays, as they should. But this still needs to be a priority in those individuals that are eligible to donate.
All right, so tell the folks how they can donate.
So you can donate a couple of different options. So we have a location in Flowood, right off of Lakeland.
That's your headquarters, right?
That's the headquarters. Yep. That's right. Then we've got a spot in Oxford as well as in Cleveland. But we have mobile community buses that go out into the various towns across the state. So they can find those particular ones on our website at msblood.com and just put their zip code in to locate a drive near them.
Okay, so and people see this all the time, and they're maybe a little hesitant, a little reluctant, not exactly sure what the process entails. Can you describe that to them?
Well, I mean, you think about it. There's, 4 or 5 million people across the United States. Only 3%, average 3% donate.
Really?
Out of that entire amount. So, I mean, if we have the ability to increase a frequency of a donor to do more than one donation a year, that would drastically improve the impact of the inventory. I mean, individuals are hesitant to donate. The biggest one is their fear of sticks, being stuck to get the blood coming out. It's the biggest fear. And we all have to have shots on a regular basis for some individuals, but the impact of being able to donate that blood, whether it is a whole blood product or a platelet product, the impact to someone else, how that can save someone else's life, is more rewarding than the fear of a stick, in my opinion. That's me personally.
Yeah.
But I mean, that one little element, and if they are scared to donate for that particular reason, or there's other reasons, they have the ability to still make an impact by hosting a blood drive.
Okay.
So there's various ways they can still be involved and stay and help the patients in Mississippi.
Gotcha. All right, so again, describe the process. If somebody's a little hesitant, a little concerned about it, I've personally done it as well a few times, so tell them how it works.
So all they have to do is they can either walk into any of those locations, they can call us for an appointment, they'll do a small little health screening, check their iron, check their weight, check their blood pressure to make sure they're all in line with what FDA requires us to do for blood donations. And they sit on one of the beds and the donation begins.
And about how long does it take?
Depending on what product you're doing. If you're doing a whole blood donation, it could be as small that once you get on the bed, as a small amount of time as 15, 20 minutes. If you're doing a platelet donation, it could be about an hour and a half because that's a longer procedure. But anywhere from that range, it all kind of depends on the individual. As long as they come in hydrated and have had a healthy meal, that makes that process of the donation move a lot faster.
And then they get some snacks on the way out, right?
Of course, we have our snacks. And of course, we're trying to figure out what the poll is as far as what's the best one to go for.
Okay.
You've donated. What
Nutter Butters.
There it is. That's
Didn't even have to think about it.
Didn't even have to think about it. That's the biggest one that we've got, that and the chips. So.
And sometimes the food trucks have been set up outside as well.
They have. They certainly have. So we've got a couple of activities that are coming up. World Sickle Cell Day is coming up in June, so we're going to have an activity at this blood center on Lakeland Drive. So we'll have some opportunities for that. And then, of course, we're also going to be celebrating the 250th birthday, so there'll be some more activities for that. But in the meantime, we're offering the opportunity to help decrease that blood shortage with we're targeting the blood shortage and saving our summer. So we're trying to get that promotion moving off this week with $10 Target gift cards to the donors that come into the center.
So Secretary of State Michael Watson just sent me a text. He said, I'm a Nutter Butter fan. He said, Nutter Butter fan here.
There you go.
Appreciate
Come donate.
that, Mr. Secretary. Yeah, and the folks are so professional and so courteous and take good care of you. And then sometimes you might even get a T-shirt or a Huggy or something on the way out.
That's
too, right?
correct. That's right. And this week we're doing the $10 gift cards to Target.
Okay, there you go. Super cool.
Yeah.
All right, so where else do you have locations, fixed locations?
In
the
Cleveland
state?
and in Oxford.
Okay. And then you've got, of course, the mobile
throughout the state
vehicle that moves around the state.
That's correct. We could go from anywhere from 4 to 7, maybe 8 drives a day. It just kind of depends on the day and the staffing that we have available. But we do try to get them out in the community as far out as we can, because we know it's hard sometimes for the donors to come to our central locations.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to go to them.
And I know that I ask you this every time, but I think it's good to just kind of repeat that for the audience. And that's what types do you need? And typically it's all types.
All
right?
types right now. All types. O's, B's, and A's. Definitely for sure. If you are one of those types or don't know if you're one of those types, we can still help you figure that out and make sure you know what gift would be most beneficial for you to give.
You know, anytime we talk to you guys, I always have to bring up what the late, great J.T. Williamson always said when he was going through his medical issues, that you just don't know until you're on the other side of the bag. I mean, he just described it so perfectly. And he appreciated so much what Mississippi Blood Services does. It was certainly critical to his treatment. And he was always good about coming on when we would be hosting the show with you guys, and he would talk about that. And I think it was just very impactful. I will never forget that. That's just a beautiful way to describe it.
To be on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, as a example as well, my husband was a recipient. He went through a cancer treatment, and we did blood drives for him during his cancer treatments too.
Sure.
So it's definitely impactful to have it be received, being on that other side of the bag and understanding the commitment that someone, you don't even know who they are,
right,
just took 30 minutes out of their day to save your life.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so who do you supply? Who does the Mississippi Blood Services supply?
So the blood that we collect goes across the state. Our primary focus is to the patients in Mississippi first. So we have about 50-plus hospitals that we supply products to. Now, as you know, Mississippi is one of the most hospitable places around. So if we need to step in and help another city or state outside that's going through some traumatic incident like New Orleans did, the California fires, those are examples. We actually help support those when needed. But our primary concern is for the patients in the state of Mississippi. Our products primarily stay here.
Okay. And how long have you guys been doing this, by the way?
This year will be 47 years.
47 years serving the great state of Mississippi.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And how long have you been in the headquarters you're in now in Flowood?
I can't recall, but I believe it's probably close to 10 years.
10 years. That kind of seems right. Yeah. Well, it's awesome, and we've been out there many times, as you know, and many people will stop by because they hear us talking about it, and hopefully that is the situation today.
I hope so. Yes,
right?
I really do. The benefit of coming out here and talking definitely drives in an audience that we desperately need.
And the hours of operation?
They've actually extended the hours, so we're doing collections Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5, and then on Saturdays we're extending it till 4:30.
I got you. Awesome. On the C Spire text line, have donated 8 gallons. I donate to Vitalent, just who I have always donated to. I'm not sure who that is, but they just wanted us to know that.
Okay.
Said just when I was working, that's who our company used for blood drives. Okay, sure.
Absolutely.
But companies can contact you guys,
that's
right?
Correct.
About bringing
they can.
We did it when I was in business.
That's
about bringing the mobile van out, and folks can, very convenient, just step outside and go into the van and lay down, sit down, lay down, get tested, boom, done.
Sometimes if the business is big enough, we can actually come inside and make it more convenient. So they just like a conference room.
Okay.
We can set up in a conference room. So the individual that texts in, I'd love for him to give us a call, and maybe we can come to him.
Yeah. So who would they contact about that?
They can contact me. I believe my contact information's on there at kdixon@msblood.com.
Okay. And find out how to get all that set up.
You got it.
And make it happen.
That's right. We'll make it happen.
Well, that's awesome. So I know that you guys do great work, and there are a lot of people that all of a sudden have this need and didn't even anticipate it. And that's usually what happens.
That's right.
That's why we got to keep the inventory up.
And as soon as you're going into the summer, that inventory is just going to slowly keep going down because everybody's traveling. But because of that and all the accidents that are going to take place as summer occurs, we've got to keep that inventory available for them.
Makes sense. Casey Dixon, Director of Marketing and Public Relations for the Mississippi Blood Services, has been our guest. Appreciate it, Casey. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert
All right, we are back.
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
All right, where the super regionals are all set for the two Mississippi teams participating, continuing to participate in postseason D1 baseball play. It's Mississippi State over in Athens at Georgia. And Ole Miss will be traveling to our neighbor to the east, Auburn, on the plane.
Should have played head east.
Yeah, that's right. I caught some of that game last night. Auburn just too much for Milwaukee, but
Eventually, yeah.
yeah, hats off to Milwaukee. Man, I thought they played a good game and hung in there pretty well. But Auburn's bats came alive. Certainly in one inning they exploded for several runs. So that's all coming up this weekend. Super regionals, and we'll see who prevails and heads up to Omaha. 16 teams participating in the Super Regionals. 8 of those will advance to Omaha and participate in the College World Series. Should be a lot of fun. So still stuff for Mississippi State and Ole Miss fans to stay plugged into. College baseball, here we are in the merry old month of June. You know, the old race lady, as we call her here, former MSNBC host Joy Reid. She, of course, the one-time host of Morning Joy, except she was anything but joy. She's not happy with former Ole Miss quarterback and current New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart because he introduced President Trump on stage not too long ago. She first called Jackson Dart an idiot for using the word pleasure to describe meeting Trump. Oh, my gosh. And she says she's an idiot, and she's criticizing him for his use of the English language there. Okay, get over it there, race lady. Just incredible. She said she's always been a Giants fan, but now can't root for the team since Jackson Dart introduced President Trump. Zero chance she could answer any questions about the New York Giants. I guarantee you. This notion of this remark she made, I've always been a Giants fan until now. I'm calling horse hockey on that. I'm raising the BS flag on that one. Gosh, this is just further illustration and another example of these people that are eaten up with the old Trump derangement syndrome. That's all this is. Come on. Picking on an athlete because he introduced the president? Jeez.
But Orange Man bad.
That's what they think. It just...
That's why it's ironic she called anybody an idiot.
Well, that's true. But you know what this was about. 100%. Attention. And we just gave her some. I get it. But that's all this is about.
She has a small crying child riding in circles on a tricycle in her head. That's all she got going on between her ears.
Do you remember so clearly? Because every day on her show, all she'd do was speak of race grievances. It just seemed, that's why we call her the race lady, by the way. She was absolutely eaten up with it, consumed with it, obsessed with it, mired in it. And one day I got curious. I remember I had you look it up and said, you know, how could you say that this country is so racist when you, as a black female, are hosting a nationwide program on a network it's a nationwide network. We could certainly debate how prominent it is. I think you and I figured out we probably have more people tuned into this show than she did on hers, even though it was broadcast across the nation. But you remember I had you look up her salary, her compensation. And I think I guessed before you looked it up it was north of $1 million. As I recall, you researched it real quick and came back and said it's $1.5 million is what I recall. So,
and by the time she was forced out for being completely worthless at her job, it was $3 million a year.
Of course. So let me get this straight. She's black female. She went to Harvard, right? She lands a gig on a national news network. She hosts a show and makes $3 million a year for it. But this country's racist. What am I missing here? It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Oh, man. Well, she's mad at Jackson Dart because he introduced the president. We are going to take a break right now. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio at 12:05. Again, it's Representative Steve Lott. He'll give us an update on the oil and gas industry and where he sees all this going. He's got a bunch of experience in that business. Coming right back.
This hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. Hour 2 of Middays live from the Element Wealth studio. We thank you so much for joining us. Just looking here at the Super Regionals, Rhino, the state of Alabama, 3, Troy, Alabama, and Auburn. 3 Super Regionals. That's pretty incredible. 3, almost half of them are in one state. That is unbelievable.
I think there's also 3 teams with Trojans for a mascot.
I believe you're right. USC, Troy.
Cal.
Yeah.
There's one other one.
I think you're
I don't
right.
remember if they made it through or not, though.
Yeah, who is it? I think you're right. There is one more. What's Cal Poly? They're not Trojans, are they? I don't think so. I've never seen them in a super regional. That's kind of interesting.
Cal Poly's the Mustangs.
Okay. What's St. John's? They're playing at Alabama. It's incredible. They came out of that bracket with Florida and Coastal Carolina in it. St. John's. They're not Trojans, are they?
They're the Red Storm.
That's right. Yeah. Normally you see them in basketball. It's kind of what they're known for. So this is interesting. Little Rock at Troy. Little Rock, of course, won the Hattiesburg Regional. And Troy came out with Florida and Miami in there. Fascinating. North Carolina playing at Southern Cal, USC. Ole Miss, of course, at Auburn. Mississippi State at Georgia. Texas. Oregon. Wow. Going to be something. No doubt about it. Just a little rundown of the super regionals. Oil prices are kind of steady right now. There's some chatter about the Strait of Hormuz reopening. Little Rock Trojans? Yeah, everybody's telling us it's Little Rock. Yeah, so I don't know that I've ever really paid much attention to Little Rock in sports, but there they are. It's kind of amazing that they come out of that state with Arkansas having a perennial powerhouse baseball program. The Razorbacks, of course, and they did not. Little Rock at Troy. Appreciate that. So
that's an all-Trojan super regional.
Go Trojans! You can't miss, can't be wrong. Really cool. Thanks for folks telling us,
There's a certain prophylactic manufacturer that should have a rep in that town this weekend.
Oh, my God.
Could get some serious headway in the market share.
Yeah, there you go. That is awesome. Oh, man. So, yeah, Southern Cal, of course, that's typically whom you associate with the Trojans. And I'll have to admit that their little pregame routine with the Trojan on the white stallion, that's pretty cool. Comes out with a sword. I like that. I like their band uniforms, too, with the helmet of the era. A great video, of course, CD, back when you bought music on CDs, concerts. I remember that in the 90s. Fleetwood Mac played in their concert. Was called The Dance. I think it may have been on the USC campus, but the Trojan band was there. And I can't remember which song. Tusk. That was the song. They were performing the song Tusk. And here comes the USC Trojan band. In particular, the horn section came out and really did it up. That's pretty cool. You know, that was a lot of fun for them to be part of that. The Dance. What a great recording that is. I'm going to call it that because now you can go watch it on YouTube or Netflix or all the other streaming services. Back then you had to buy it on CD, and I had it. And it was done, one of the first that was done in all HD video and audio. Really well done, of course. And that's when they were still all alive and kicking. And Christine McVie, what a magnificent performance. And the great Mick Fleetwood on the drums. Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham. All good stuff. Yeah. So let's see. St. John's was one of the first to cave to the Indians. Feather, not dot. They used to be the Red Men. I think I do remember that. Yeah.
Was it Johnny Thunderbird?
Yeah, that's right. Appreciate that. That was on the C Spire text line. Yeah, I think we got all the Trojans, USC, Troy, and Little Rock. Just to reiterate, appreciate that, folks. We could remember two of them, but we didn't know about Little Rock. But now we know, and as Rhino has pointed out, it's an all Trojans mascot super regional. That's going to be something. And that's at Troy, correct? That's where they're going? That ought to be something. So 3 in the state of Alabama. I don't know that that's ever occurred before. Maybe at some point in history, in California, I'm thinking, you had super regionals because you got so many schools, and there was a time when California was, across the state, was really strong. I mean, they still are, but not with respect to appearing in postseason play this year. A lot to look forward to there. Should be fun. By the way, Ben from Madison, he shared a thought. He said, a lot of inconsistencies with the Dart situation. Same folks supporting Dart hated when LeBron said or did some political things, and the people who told LeBron to stick to dribbling, in quotes, or applauding Dart for his actions. I just want folks to be consistent. I guess that is too much to ask for, though. I hear you, Ben, and I don't see where it's a big deal if they express their political beliefs one way or another, and certainly don't have a problem. I may not agree with LeBron, but I don't have a problem with it. I believe that's between him and his employer. And
well, 2 nuances. One, Jackson Dart was invited to introduce a politician people don't agree with.
Yeah.
It's a little inconsistent to compare that to interjecting one's ignorant opinion into every press conference. Add an extra layer to that. LeBron's barely literate. So his opinions on deep political matters is useless.
All true. I would just simply say, if I were in charge, I would probably consider something in the contract that would somewhat limit that, because you're an employee and you're a celebrity employee. So there could be some, it's common to have what are called moral turpitude clauses, provisions in contracts with public figures like that, because they can embarrass and bring dishonor, and that could harm the business because that individual or individuals are the business. That's the product. So I think that's the approach to handle those situations. But I hear you. The distinction is different. Whereas LeBron opined, seemed like every time he got the opportunity to, he wanted to inject that. Didn't want to talk about basketball. And in this case, it was a request of the Trump administration. So, but I hear you, Ben. We do need to be, not just on this, but any other number of issues as well. Consistency, I think, is important, and I agree with you on that. We mix politics with business, in my view, too much, and it should kind of be in the background, not in the foreground. That should not be how you're branded, but some of these people seeking the attention certainly do that. Here at home, Mississippi Senator Mike McClendon, he has announced he's drafting a bill, he's from DeSoto County, to legalize chemical castration for educators convicted of sex crimes against children. The School Predator Accountability Act would create a special registry for these offenders, allow for chemical castration, of course, notify parents when any of these predators are in the classroom or in the schools or around them. So this is interesting. This Educator Chemical Castration Eligibility Act, which would authorize courts to order chemical castration for offenders convicted of committing sexual crimes against minors while serving as educators, is included in this package. I think it's two separate bills. As Rhino's bumping us out here with that very tune from The Dance, Fleetwood Mac, The Dance, a live performance at USC. And that is the USC band performing there. You can hear the horn section, the song Tusk. And that's Lindsey Buckingham yelling there. Thank you for that, Rhino. Really good.
Mississippi talking. Now, on to the real part. Dynamite. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let me run with you tonight.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on the C Spire text line. When did we go from celebrities selling products to thinking their opinion really mattered to the rest of the world? I think they think that. I'm not sure the rest of the world is buying it, but I would agree they tend to think that they're all relevant because they've achieved this celebrity status. And I think they're sadly mistaken. Most people really don't care about their political opinions, but they share them and offer them because they have a pulpit. They have a mouthpiece because of their celebrity status, and they utilize it for that purpose.
Well, that and the entirety of leftist politics in the current year, 2026, relies on consensus because the policies themselves are a house of cards and fall at the first push.
That's very true.
So without consensus, it all comes tumbling down. With consensus, they can at least paper over the cracks and make it look like, no, see, everybody believes the same way we believe. We think dudes in dresses should totally dominate women's sports.
That's so crazy, but you're right. The Trump administration perhaps has been the most engaged and active in rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in government. And there's just been this discovery of billions of dollars of erroneous payments, honestly, outright theft from federal grant programs. I mean, to epidemic levels. Is why I've actually mentioned in the past, maybe we just ought to get rid of all federal grants. Certainly we ought to perhaps put the brakes on them, even pause them, suspend them while we get control of these programs, because they're out of control. So
certainly is odd timing that USAID money got put down and all of a sudden South American countries stopped voting liberal.
That's true. With that money not flowing anymore. Yeah. So some things that the Trump administration are doing that I think are good moves, good actions. And that's first, let's find the federal grants that are not aligned with law or presidential executive orders, and let's eliminate them. Let's mandate that evidence of fraud must be provided to the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia so the criminals can be prosecuted. That's what they do in the court there. Prohibit grants that push disparate impact liability theories. That simply means, and that's from the write-up on this, the announcement of this, discriminatory event services, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender ideology, etc. In other words, you got to check all those boxes to get money. And all that does is spawn more fraud and more spending on stupid stuff. And then, of course, the crazy climate requirements. Many of those are woven into these grant programs as a requirement. We shouldn't issue grants, and the Trump administration is clamping down on this, for voter registration, issue advocacy, or political activities. That should come from private money, not taxpayer money. I don't want to pay to advocate for some sort of issue, cause, policy that I don't agree with. So don't do it. And then, man, this is a big one. These non-government organizations, NGOs, impose requirements on NGOs to provide their IRS tax code qualifications. So that makes these agencies identify exactly what kind of research you're doing. Because a lot of these grants are for that to an NGO. It's a jobs program that ends up being a bunch used for a bunch of benefits and travel and all sorts of other uses that have nothing to do with whatever the research is that is supposed to be funded. And make them subject to for-profit rules if a grantee receives 90% or more of their funding from grants. I'm for that. I would like to see us publish, again, using blockchain technology. We could require these grant recipients to publish all the funds they receive and all the uses of those funds in some standardized set of categories that the average person could understand. I don't mean a gap formatted financial statement. We don't need that. That's what accountants do. We just need the high-level major categories of spending so that you can drill down into that online and see where that money's going. We should do that here in the state of Mississippi, as a matter of fact. We should do it for every state agency, every public sector entity. Because I got to tell you, Rhino, I've tried to just get financial information about our state agencies. I can't seem to get it. Now, it may be buried in some 300-page budget somewhere, but I want to see, like, on a regular basis, the most current financial data associated with an agency. Not in the gap financial statement format, just at the high level. Here's the money you got. Here's how we're spending it. It again, separated into logical major categories that make sense so that we can all see. In other words, instead of having the State Department audit or private sector accounting firms that handle school districts and municipalities and counties. The state auditor, of course, handles state agencies, etc. Well, I think by doing this, you could mobilize and marshal hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of million, of Mississippians and even maybe people from out of state that could access this information. It would be immutable, stored in blockchain. I think it would serve as a powerful deterrent for misspending. But right now, we have to wait a year or so till the auditor goes in and says, hey, look, you didn't spend this right. But it's a year in arrears. Let's make it real time. And you know as well as I do, if the sun shines on there, people start thinking twice about doing crazy stuff. They start cleaning it up. That should be available to everybody, in my view. Talk about public money. It's kind of hard to find out where that public money's going right now. This would, I think, be a valuable tool, but the Trump administration is, again, shining the light on this and paying attention to it. Now, the president, I would say, exaggerated a little bit when he said, yeah, if we cut out all the fraud, we could balance the budget. I wish that were the case. Certainly would go some way into addressing our $2 trillion annual deficits. And it doesn't really matter. We shouldn't be wasting money, period, like that. People are sick of it. And what we've witnessed in Minnesota, California, especially in the Medicaid program, which I still don't understand why we have those programs as part of Medicaid. That's for another day. But nonetheless, we've discovered that lots of waste, fraud, and abuse. And I believe certain elected officials ignoring it, looking the other way, maybe even supporting it, if you think about it. And so this is a good move, I think, on the part of the Trump administration. No other administration, honestly, has even thought about it or looked at it. So the elections today are all in focus, primaries across the country. A lot of people are paying attention to that. Kelsey Grammer, you know who he is. I guess he earned his fame on the television show Cheers. It's where he felt like he kind of got started and became more popular.
He had Frasier for a long time.
Well, that's true. But that was spawned
he was like
from Cheers.
He was a part of the ensemble of Cheers, and then he was a star in Frasier.
It's true. He also does, I can't remember the name of the program. He's a narrator, and it's from American historical times, Washington era, Revolutionary War era. It comes on the Business Channel on Sunday evenings. I don't remember the name of the program. He's excellent at it, though, by the way. He's got a great voice for diction and narration. He's excellent. But politically speaking, he's endorsed Spencer Pratt, the Republican, for mayor. How about that? He's also ascribed to her, Rhino, a nickname, Mayor Karen Bass, who's running for re-election. He calls her Karen Bass Ackwards. That's what he calls her. I would say that's perfect. Oh, man. We're stepping aside for a break, coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth studio. Once again, primary day across the nation in many states and cities. In California, big time. All candidates appear on a single ballot in California, by the way. It's a jungle primary. And then if nobody receives 50% plus one of the votes, the top two advance to a runoff. All candidates. And that, actually the top two, no runoff because it's a jungle primary. The top two advance to the general election. So you could have two in the same party on the ballot in the general election come November. Right now, there's a strong probability that Steve Hilton, the Republican candidate for governor, he could be there. It's not really clear who the other candidate might be, but right now the Democrat leader is Javier Becerra, the former congressman and state attorney general, who was also health secretary. You remember him under Joe Biden. And then behind him, the billionaire Tom Steyer. This is interesting. If you do any research on Tom, Rhino, he was a fossil fuels guy, and then he became a climate activist. And, of course, he's running now for governor. He's run for president before. I think he's run for some other stuff in the past as well. The Republican Steve Hilton campaigning with President Trump's endorsement. So you could be looking at a situation where it's Steve Hilton. That's the way the polling shakes out right now. Shows him slightly behind Becerra. But I think no candidate has more than like 25, 26%, right? It's pretty split up. But there are like 60 people running for governor. I'm not exaggerating. How in the world is that ballot going to look? What's that going to look like? Here's your ballot. They give you a 3-ring binder, right, with all the pages in it.
It's not all that unusual. I mean, you think back to when Schwarzenegger ran. He was one of like 4 actors just on the ballot.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's a big state with a bunch of people, and they always have crowded elections. And I think the fact that there are no primaries probably, I think, causes the field to be larger. You don't have a Republican primary, a Democrat. You just put them all on the list at the same time, and the top two go to the general election if nobody wins outright. So, but then in the city of Los Angeles, it looks like it will likely be Karen Bass, but I think Spencer Pratt's right in there. The two of them advancing to the general election. You really could have, no pun intended, an earthquake in California should there be a change of leadership in Sacramento to a Republican governor, and certainly in Los Angeles to a Republican mayor. The city of Los Angeles, 8-10 million people? I don't know about L.A. proper. I know the whole dang area is like 12. The valley there. Big city. So it's a big responsibility with a big budget, with a lot of problems because they basically have sort of endorsed, condoned, facilitated drug addiction, and that's what's leading to the homeless problem.
City of L.A. has 3.9 million.
Okay.
L.A. County has 9.7 million.
There you go.
And the greater Los Angeles area, the sprawling 5-county metro, includes over 18.5 million.
Okay. Well, I was wrong. I needed to be updated. I said 12. It's 18.5. But the city proper is a little smaller than I thought. But I think that's because it's a city that sort of started out with those boundaries and then just blossomed with suburbs. And so there's a gazillion towns all around it, each of which are their own municipality. Thus, what'd you say, the county?
9.7 million.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And then the greater area, which is 5 counties, 18. There are 39 in the state. Amazing. Yeah, it's you can drive and just nothing but solid people. Not many areas like that in the country. But that's going to be interesting to watch. I think that will be a bit of an indicator of what we can expect in the midterms in the country coming up this November as well, just kind of tracking voter sentiment in that regard for sure. The CEOs in this country, in some recent surveys, are predicting that the U.S. economy will worsen in the next 6 months. Survey score fell from 59 to 47 in 1 quarter, with 31% of CEOs now planning workforce reduction. Corporate leadership, it's being said in the survey, is losing its faith in the current trajectory of the U.S. economy. So they're sort of pivoting from being super optimistic to pessimistic. You sure don't see that in the markets with the way we've set so many records here of late. But most of that's being driven by the technology and AI economy. 15% said the economy is better than 6 months ago, down from 39% in the first quarter. 47% say it's worse, up from 8%. That really is shocking. And then there have been some revisions in the fourth quarter of last year. GDP, you can always count on revisions to those figures. And that revised figure shows the economy grew at an annualized rate of 0.5% for the fourth quarter, October, November, December 2025. 0.5%. That's not good. That's an annualized rate, just so you know. That means if you took the growth for the quarter and you did the math to convert that to an annual rate, 0.5%. That's shockingly bad, especially when the predictions from the administration are 4 to 5%. Got a long way to go to get to there, and the vast majority of that growth is in the technology industry. That's where it's coming from. In fact, I saw a report the other day that said a third of workers in the construction industry are involved in technology-related construction projects. A third. It's driving it. So CEOs they're forewarning us that we might be looking at an economic downturn. Hope that's not the case. I do think that getting this war put to bed and resolving that situation in the Middle East would go a long way towards stabilizing and pumping up the United States economy. So let's hope that happens. The Wall Street Journal editorial board published a great article, I thought, about Exxon. They say Exxon, in their decision to leave New Jersey and move their headquarters to Texas, is an example for corporations. They say that, and I love this, Rhino, they say that corporate management has an obligation to seek, in this case, an environment, a state, to locate the headquarters that's in the best interest of the shareholders. Well, of course they should. Well, in the past, there were minor differences between the states. Not anymore. The Democrats have gone crazy nuts. They've never found a tax they didn't like or a regulation they wouldn't impose. They've made it impossible, insufferable to do business. And so Exxon says, by the way, they've been there, I think, since 1882. They've been in New Jersey. Yeah, 1882. So you might ask, why now? The best answer, the policy differences between New Jersey and Texas, and they're widening. And Exxon says, enough. Okay, we get it. You don't want us here. That's what you're telling us. You don't embrace what we do. You don't want fossil fuels. You don't want us to make any money. You want us to submit to all your stupid regulations and all your crazy union boss rules in those environments. And they say, we're out of here. So they are moving to Texas. And something else, it's a big issue that doesn't get talked about a lot, is the legal environment. Litigation. It's business unfriendly. You get drug into court, you're hitting the hip. It doesn't matter if you did anything wrong or not, right? Oh, you got more money than them, you give them some money. That's what happens. The courts are just big redistribution machines. And Exxon says, that's enough. We're out of here. Hey, Mississippi, we should be doing the same. We should be inviting these companies. Imagine moving a headquarters of that magnitude. It would change Mississippi for the better. It'd be incredible. Incredible. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Poly up a
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays on the C Spire text line. That okay economy is working overtime right now. Yeah, I think the administration is trying to quell the concerns about folks their household finance situation, and there certainly is some merit to the idea that the folks at the top are doing better than others. But like I said, in the White House, the Council of Economic Advisors chief, Kevin Hassett, he delivered the message this past Sunday on the Business Channel that real income, real wages are actually up since the president took office. So even though we've been faced with inflation, in particular the cost of gas and food, at least according to him, based on the increases in wages netted by the increase in household costs, you're to the good about $3,000. That's the message that they are delivering. Now, I'm sure it's case-by-case basis, right? That's just the average of everyone in the country. So, really is incredible when you look at all this information, all this data, and what that means in the nation's economy. I know this. There's an old saying in the sales business, perception is reality. And I think it's fair to say right now the perception is things aren't that good. And folks are certainly having trouble making ends meet. And that is becoming a problem. It's a political problem. But I think, again, that's largely driven by the spike in the price of gas, driven by the spike in the price of oil that all got traction after the attack on Iran, coming up on 3 months. Still no resolution there, and really hard to tell where we're headed. I know that the subject of the baby boomers has come up on the program quite a bit, but there's some new information that suggests that this wave of aging baby boomers, I being one of them, are positioned to really reshape the U.S. economy. The reports state that a drastic decrease in immigration plus the aging baby boomer population is, in fact, changing the contours of the economy. Americans aged 50 and older generated $12.5 trillion in economic activity in the United States in 2024. That's incredible when you consider that when you take government out of our GDP figures, It comes in at about $25 trillion. That's half of it for those over 50. That's really a stunning stat. And so is this. By 2050, 1 in 4 Americans will be over 65. 2050. Also, of course, older Americans sitting on an enormous mountain of wealth. And as they retire, they're spending that down and passing on some of that cash to the youth. And there are some market analysts who believe that's propping up the U.S. economy, calling it a G-shaped economy for generational, in which older folks provide financial support to their younger adult children and grandchildren. But there are, of course, a lot of older Americans who are struggling with the rising costs. So there's a gap there. And, of course, as well, the affordability crisis, as it is described, is really putting the screws on young adults, where the older population is a little more insulated from those dynamics. So it's being said that this is why the consumer is resilient. It's the well-to-do baby boomers that are spending their money in their aging years, and that's driving consumer spending. Really incredible. Mo says, Gerard, when you first came on the show, I said I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on buying an electric car. With all the improvements, I'm taking a serious look at the Tesla Model Y. They have made a lot of improvements, most importantly in battery life. Well, good luck with your decision there, Mose. And I think Rhino and you talked about it many times, that this is all evolving technology, and so don't just look at it for what it is today. We're just in our infancy stages, that there's all sorts of new technology in the labs being worked on, being developed to address battery life and charging cost and replacement, but all the objections.
At the same point in its lifetime, the internal combustion engine was still being cranked with a lever on the front.
I didn't even think about that. It's true. So we're a little ways removed from that. Coming right back in the Element Well studio, we got Steve Lott next.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays. We are live in the Element Well studio. We appreciate you joining us today, and it's our pleasure to welcome now Representative Steve Lott. He represents District 107. That incorporates George and Stone counties in southeast Mississippi. Representative Lott, appreciate you coming on, man.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Gerard.
And also the lead guitarist for the house band. We've had a good time playing music together, and we're getting geared up to play at the Neshoba County Fair.
That's right. We just need to get a little bit more practice time in.
A little more practice.
I've been seeing, with the group text, everybody trying to figure out when they're free or not. And we're scattered all over the place. So, but we'll work it out.
Oh, yeah. We sure will. So tell the folks again about your background in the energy industry. We've been talking about that this morning. People are kind of curious as to know, where is all this going?
Yeah, well, 30 years, Chevron, first 10 years in manufacturing, actually making gasoline and all the products, jet fuel, diesel. Got into capital project management, did that for roughly about 10 years. We had several investments over about a 15, 20-year period there, and I was involved in a couple of them, the last couple of them. The last one, we were upgrading gasoline reforming processes. I was the lead ops rep for that. And then when I got the base oil plant, which is the blend stock that you make for actually motor oil or grease or whatever, I got into supply chain, and then I actually was I had to build all the startup plans and the load and keep the ships in and out, and then it kind of rolled over, and then it kind of evolved. And I worked at a lubricants business unit out of San Ramon, and then they shifted us all back to the refinery. So then I wound up getting into all of it, doing all the scheduling for everything, getting products in and out.
Okay. So you know, and I've told folks about you and I have had many conversations offline about it. I always enjoy your perspective because you have a lot of experience in that on the ground, not just from a remote perspective. And this is a big thing in our country right now because people, of course, are experiencing these high prices at the pump. Mm-hmm. And that all got started when the president decided to attack Iran. His goal, of course, ridding them of their nuclear ambitions. No resolution on that now. But oil's been pretty volatile. Mm. And there's some analysts, I talked about this on the show yesterday, that say, we've been depleting our reserves at a fairly strong rate. And if we don't get the Strait open, we could be looking at $150 to $160 a barrel.
Right.
I mean, that's almost double where it is today.
Right. And, of course, you have to – sometimes you think, and when people ask the question, say, well, what's the United States? Well, the United States is staying relatively full on crude, but you still got to remind yourself it's global commodity.
Yeah.
So it impacts what if there's something significant happens – say, like if they're not getting oil through Strait of Hormuz, they're having to make it up somewhere else. So the demand's drawing down all the inventories. So yeah, there's always a risk on that, and and multiple factors. All this started just before summer blend started with gasoline, which I don't know if you know a lot about that. Summer blend is you have to pull a little bit more of the lighter ends out of the gas to lower the RVP because of the heat. There's less vapors vaporizing out and everything like that, which you lose barrels, which causes a little bit less gasoline, so you have to make it up somewhere else.
Okay.
So it all kind of dominoes. Even I was looking at if you look on the index, it's called RBOB. And what RBOB is just all the gasoline components to make gasoline, and there's an index for it. And it's dropped to about 50, 60 cents over the last month. It's up about a nickel today. But still, we're in summer season. Even if the price is dropping because of summer season, and my gauge is I can go where I live at in Lucedale, I can drive up to just north of town there on Highway 98 and pull in a gas station and get my gas and just kind of watch. There's a steady stream headed east still, so the demand's still there. People are still traveling, so so that just kind of puts a strain on it and keeps it up like that. So
yeah. So and I was talking earlier on the show that the automobile buyers in other countries in the Pacific Rim and in Europe, they're starting to scarf up the EVs. They're finding that those are more practical than they were, and it's because the price of gas in those countries is considerably higher than it is here. Of course, they don't travel quite as much, but some of the industry analysts are saying this is actually causing demand to fall, which is certainly good from the perspective of getting the price down.
Yeah, it is higher than it has been, and last week we were out of the country last week, and I had to fill a golf cart up, put about 2.5 gallons in, and it was like $25. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I said, okay, but wow. You go to a lot of these other places, it's way higher, of course, and which they have different taxes on it, but still, a lot of these places have to import it. We're really, I wish it was lower for everybody, but we're probably in the better place in the world as far as the price and at this point right now.
Yeah. And then the question is, if the Strait opens, how quick do the markets respond to that? How long does it take for that supply to start being incorporated into the overall market so that it does change inventory levels and starts driving price down?
A lot of us would look at trends and things like that. Like I remember we used to, like after COVID, we had significant demand degradation on jet fuel because everybody quit flying.
Yeah.
And my oils planning manager would watch the inventories in the terminals in New York City. And then when he'd kind of watch that, and of course now all that data's out there, you can watch all that stuff. And when he started seeing it coming down, he said, all right, it's starting to head the right direction. And of course, a little bit later it did. So it'd be the same with the crude oil. They'll get to moving, but it's going to take a little time to get it built back up. So, traders are going to be real antsy to make sure don't like one day, here we go, and then the next day, all right, we're closing down again. You know, they want to make sure it's all done.
Want some certainty and durability into reopening the strait and getting the oil flowing again. Mm-hmm. And so, Steve, what does this mean to our refinery on the coast here? How has any of this affected it?
I mean, far as supply, I mean, they're pretty much. I haven't talked to anybody lately, but it's pretty much business as usual. Okay. You know, it is down here because again, down in the Gulf area and they've been getting their supply. Of course, Chevron had equity crude in Venezuela there, so they've been able to pick that up and they've been able to start selling those barrels along the coast down there to the other refineries, and so they've been able to keep going. We still import a fair amount, but most of our oil, it comes from, I think still a lot of it comes from Africa. We got a lot of, Chevron's got a lot of fields there, and then, of course, Central South America and Mexico some. And so they've been able to stay supplied at least. So, but it's, the cracking margins gets kind of spread because of when you get the retail price up there, it's just you're looking at your margins and everything. But right now it's just steady going, and then on their side that they just try to make sure they do everything they can to make it as efficiently as possible. So well, that makes sense. I just didn't know that if they had perhaps reduced operating hours or anything like that. So they're still going full bore. Oh yeah, we used to say we work 25 hours a day when we skip lunch. It never lets off. Some people would always look at like, do y'all cut production? I said no. We stay with both feet on the gas pedal. I mean, it's you roll. And because of demand. You got stuff. You got only got many tanks there. You got to keep stuff moving all the time, and so it was the only thing that would say if a hurricane comes in the Gulf and you have to slow down because you supply kind of slacks off or anything like that. But usually you just keep going.
So does that particular refinery produce gasoline, all grades of gas? Mm-hmm. Natural gas? Does it do any production refining there, or what's required there? No, there's they import some of out of the fields out in the Gulf out there. They import natural gas because what they utilize it for. There's a lot of hydro processing. You need a lot of hydrogen to do a lot of the processing. Okay. So they take the natural gas, run it through the hydrogen plants, and convert it. You basically split the hydrogen and carbon up and get your hydrogen to utilize for the plants. And then there's some of them when you're reforming gasoline. You're taking a straight run, making a ring, get into chemistry a little bit. But when you take a straight run of hydrocarbon, make it into a ring to make it more stable for gasoline, it does give off some hydrogen molecules, which is you actually produce some hydrogen off of the reforming process. Okay. So, and then where do we ship it? It comes out of that refinery. Florida gets a lot. The state, of course, it comes up the pipeline to Collins. You've seen the terminals. If you ever drive down 49, you get south of town, just look out. Well, you may have to go off the road a little bit there on the south end. Okay. The pipeline comes up through there. Everybody gets there. And then we get Central America. Not a lot in Louisiana, but Florida gets a lot of it, and Alabama. So. Gotcha. What about diesel? They produce diesel there too? Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so all grades of gasoline and then diesel? Diesel and kerosene, which is jet fuel. Yeah. And military buys a lot. Of course, the specs are really tight on it. So. All right, well, hang in there. We can talk some more on the other side. Dig into what's going on in the intersession of the legislature right now. We got Representative Steve Lott in the Element Well studio coming right back.
I move mountains for Check it out. Let's do this. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's get on with it.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A little yes bumping us into this segment. Rick Waitman on the keyboards. We're talking to Representative Steve Lott. He represents George and Stone counties. So always appreciate your insight, expertise. And so tell the folks what you were just doing there on your phone. You were actually checking in real time the status of vessels moving.
Yeah, well, you started asking, and I hadn't looked at the update because it said that showed how many seven ships that could pass through in the last 24 hours, about 12% capacity. I mean, there's some friendlies that still get in and out of there, but that's still way low, and then looking at, I think I said 400 ships that were waiting to 300 or 400. I can't remember what it was right off the top of my head. And still waiting to load.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, it's about 20% of the global supply, last I checked. So that's having an impact. But, man, if some of these industry analysts are right in saying, hey, we don't get the Strait back open, the way we're depleting reserves, we could be looking at 160, 150 a barrel. That would be devastating. It would be tough. I'm still holding out thinking, I don't know if it's going to go that high or not, because I know they've kind of threw a couple things out. But I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm just kind of watching it and seeing, because it's we were just talking on the break there. We get mixed messages about, they're talking, but no, they're not. But then somebody else does this, and I think everybody's kind of like, let's get all. To me, everybody needs to get on the same page here before long, Well, the president said, the news is reporting the president said we're close. It could be within a week. Yeah. But I think we've seen that before, and so I'm not sure you'll see much reaction one way or another in the markets or certainly just in the world in general until there's something definitive in place. Right. I think that's where we are at this point. So, right. So talk about what you guys are doing between the sessions. The Speaker of the House, of course, a month or so ago, created 6 committees that are addressing different policy areas in the state government, in the state. And you're on one of those, leading one of those, right? Co-chair.
Co-chair.
Which one is that?
Government efficiency. Okay. And I had just, of course, just my first term here, been studying on a lot of things, and just from my background, I'm always looking for opportunities to see if we can improve things. And I know it's a lot of discussion, which everybody's saying, where does the money go in here, and how it's getting spent. And I'm just not 100% sure. Well, I say we need to be more efficient. Number one, we owe it to the taxpayers, who we need to be. They're footing the bill for everything we do. We need to be good stewards of the resources. Sure. So I wanted to kind of look and see just what kind of tools we have in place. I know everybody probably does a little different there, and to make sure look at things like, do we have proper tools in place to be able to operate more efficiently? Just some other things like, all right, when we start adding stuff, just, if scope increases like that, are we looking at opportunities to repurpose something, and then just overall? And I know one of the big topics keeps coming up is procurement, and there's a lot of questions about, different ways it gets done, like that. So we really want to kind of get in the weeds a little bit on that and see if there's opportunities we can help the government run more efficiently, and that's kind of the goal. So we actually have our first hearing tomorrow. Okay. At 1:00. We've got some of the agency heads or the directors will be there. We just kind of open up, and I've talked to several of them already. I said, pretty much what it is that I'm just kind of open up. Look, this is kind of what we want to do. Here's some questions, like, is there, what kind of tools we have? Have y'all been looking at this to try to modernize things? I'm sure we still got a lot of antiquated processes. I think I heard you a while ago, was like just trying to look for data that's not even, you can't find it. Financial data concerning a state agency or any public sector entity, it's like impossible to find. Right, and I'm a stickler on details, and if you're doing business, to me, you need to have the right tools in place to be able to keep your stuff in order, Sure. And that's kind of the things I want to look at. And some of it's just going to be, just talking with everyone and try to head down a path to be more efficient. It's just going to be maybe some paradigm changes we just got to do, and how we do things. But I want to get feedback from the stakeholders, and you tell me where you're at. Not just come in and say, all right, I'm writing a policy, let's do this. But y'all share what you got. Do you have some hang-ups? Is there things we can do to make it better? Yeah. And that's what I want to do. I think that's the perfect approach, and get them in to discuss
things that are good and things that could be better, and
Right.
how you can work together to improve those situations. The one thing the state auditors pointed out is property that the state owns, that vacant buildings or buildings that are half full. Is this something you're going to be looking at as well, you think?
I made a whole lot of bullet items there, which I know is like, all right, I've probably got way too much here, so I probably need to start just going after the low-hanging fruit and work our way through the list there, because it's you can only do so much in a day at a time, like that. But definitely we'll look at that. I've thought about that. How much property does the state have? Is there opportunities to divest some of it a little bit to improve it a little bit? There's a couple of things that, of course, you could divest some, but also if we own it there, it's off the tax roll, so it's not being utilized for anything and no growth on it, so. Yeah. And that is one of my items, because, we've had a discussion about it, and GDP, we need it to grow, but as time goes on, we've seen, from the federal side, we got to chase some things down. Like, all right, the dollars aren't coming in like they used to, which, we could probably talk for 5 hours on the CARES Act, like that parts of it you may or may not like, but the drawback to it, there was a lot going on then, but the drawback is, man, we got so much federal debt now. It's just unbelievable.
Yep,
and
that's right.
And they've got to tighten up, and that's not. I know I hope they are, but then I look at it like, no, I think they're spending more now.
Yes, more. The deficit's actually higher this year than it was last year at this point of the year to date. Yeah, so there are other opportunities. Of course, when you look at our state budget, though, 55% of it's education.
Yeah.
So, that would be the big target, and not sure what is being talked about there. A lot of that is controlled, as you know, at the local level.
Right.
But, of course, the state appropriates money based on students. And then the school districts get money from local sources and federal sources, and that's how they operate the districts. So,
right.
I just wonder how we could cut spending or improve efficiencies at the state level if it's based on a student head count.
Yeah, and trying to understand, because I know there's a lot of programs that go on, and I don't know that's, contractually that they're doing. And are there opportunities to say, all right, do I really need to do this, but I really need to do this? And I'm not saying nobody does that. I'm just saying we just need to make sure we are, because you talk about education. One thing that's going to come up is, that K through 12 age is gradually going down. Colleges are about to see it. So if you're getting funded based on a head count,
already seeing it. It's being reported that enrollment is down, and it's not because they left and went to private schools. It's because we just don't have as many kids.
Yeah, we can't create people. That is what it is. So I think we're just all going to have to just buckle down and just figure out, all right, what do we, what is our main mission here, and I just don't, I know a lot of people want more money for this, that, and the other, but then, you get down that path, you're saying, all right, you're saying you want us to tax people more, and that's not what we want to do, because people are taxed enough.
Yeah, they don't want that.
No, that's right. So we need to see what we can do with what we got.
Yeah, good point. So have you actually discussed or had conversations with agency heads?
Right.
You made them aware of what you're looking to do and bringing them in. And do they seem to be receptive? They're excited about this, enthusiastic about coming before the legislature?
I haven't talked to all of them that's coming tomorrow. I've talked to some, and I understand probably. I think the first thought from what our approach is we're calling you in, we're going to start asking you what you need to quit doing this.
Start scolding you.
And I'm like, I'm not that person. I want to talk about, say, hey, what you got going? Let's see if we can do this better and work together, because we all in this together,
Sure. Well, good. No, I suspect that you'll get a lot of great input and information you need, and it wouldn't surprise me if what you hear from a lot of them is, I could do better if we could do this, because you guys during the session, you don't just constantly pick the phone up and have conversations, or even in person with these agency heads. You do to some extent. They come in and, of course, present their budget requests, but it's not a continuous, and you're certainly not doing it in the off-session period I think it's a good idea. I think some good stuff's going to be coming out of it.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah, sounds good. Representative Steve Lott has been our guest here in the Element Wealth studio. Good luck with all of that. I look forward to getting you back on again to tell us how those meetings went.
Okay.
And then maybe we can get a scheduled date to get our practice in before the Neshoba County Fair again.
At least one day.
At least once. Appreciate it, man.
All right, thanks.
Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook Days with Gerard Gibert.
Welcome to our shop.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Okay, now, you have a good one.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love drives a man insane. You broke my will, what a thrill. Girl, in this your wreck is just quitting balls of fire. I let you love all I thought it was funny. You came along and you moved, and honey, I changed my mind, but it's fine. Goodness gracious, quitting balls of fire. You kissing me, baby. Ooh, it feels good. Hold me, baby. Girl, just let me love you like a lover should.
We are back in the Element Wealth studio. Appreciate Representative Steve Lott for stopping by today. Give us an update on these committees that are meeting. I'm going to call it the off-season. How about that? Between the sessions, the 26, 27 session. And that's what's happening right now. These committees, of course, spun up by Speaker of the House, Jason White, not too long ago. Some of them, I believe, have already met, if I'm not mistaken. One of those, of course, deals with exploring property tax reforms. What can be done about that? That is getting a lot of attention across the country. A lot of folks not happy with property taxes in general and looking for some relief. Probably the most popular thing you see, I would say, is relief for seniors. I think that's probably the most common request. Seniors, those over 65, just get them out of the property tax business. No property taxes whatsoever. And or certainly significant reduction of those property taxes. And there's kind of a widely followed Facebook account I caught yesterday. Rhino, it's called Donald Trump for President. And a few hours ago, posted removing property tax should happen in all 50 states. That's what they posted. And the comments you see are incredible. It's just unbelievable. Of course, this is also a common request. No person who owns their home should be in fear of losing it due to taxes. Another, remove property taxes and raise a small amount of sales tax, and everyone will pay their fair share. The governments would have to balance budgets. Something else that comes up, not realizing that property taxes are paid locally and local governments balance budgets. Another says, maybe end property taxes when the mortgage is paid off, giving people the incentive to pay off the mortgage early, rewarding people for their efforts, especially the elderly who did the right thing. If your house is paid for, it should be yours, not held at bay by the threat of the tax collector. And that's a common comment we see as well. Primary residences only and all private family farms, corporate farms, no. That's another one. Here's one that's not aware of what's going on in the country. Removing taxes on retirement income and Social Security would be a boost as well. Well, the increase in the standard deduction under the One Big Beautiful Bill changed that situation so that 80% of the people receiving Social Security no longer pay federal income taxes. on that income. In the state of Mississippi, it's exempt from state income taxes. So here's one. Imagine how fast the U.S. economy would pick up speed if there were no property tax and no IRS taxes. IRS taxes is what they call it. So lots of outcry and lots of people who are all behind this. And this is something we dug into a little bit. Oh, here's another one, Rhino. Get this one. Are we talking real estate property or personal property or both? And then another one said, and eliminate real estate taxes too. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. So, see, this is going to continue to be an issue that people talk about a lot. I touched yesterday a little bit toward the end of the show on reforms in the property tax on your vehicle. It is an ad valorem tax. It's a real property tax, not a personal property tax, not a real property tax. Real estate would be real property, such as your house that you pay property taxes on. Your vehicle is personal property, and it is subject to ad valorem taxes, which get collected, of course, by the county, distributed to the school district, the county, and the city in which you live. And I looked at just replacing that with a sales tax, a consumption tax. And I looked at that across several counties. I requested and received, appreciate the Department of Revenue for accommodating my request, the necessary information to compute that property tax, that car tag tax replacement with sales taxes. So that means when you buy something in your county, whether it's in the city or not, your sales taxes would have this additional increment on it, but you would not pay any car tag fees, except a very small amount that goes to the state. The actual big part of it, the tax, you wouldn't pay that. So that ranges from 0.9% in Harrison County, which is what would be required, to 44% in Issaquena County. 44. That means the sales tax in Issaquena County would have to be 51% in order to replace the revenue received in that county from car tax. So any discussion, in my view, of major reforms to these local taxes, property taxes, should be accompanied by a comprehensive budgetary analysis of every school district, county, and city in the state reflecting those proposed reforms. That should be a requirement. And there's no doubt, and hopefully, that Representative Steve Lott can make some progress on this. He's looking at state efficiencies primarily, but school districts, of course, are the major recipient of state funds, and we should certainly look at how to improve efficiencies in our schools, in our school districts, and that's where 55% of your property tax revenue goes. So combination of the two. But keep this in mind. We keep increasing teacher pay. I'm not suggesting that I'm against that. I'm just saying the reality is, as long as teacher pay keeps going up, it's pretty hard to cut spending just to stay level with that increase, much less to actually reduce the amount spent in the schools. That becomes a very difficult exercise. Certainly a prime candidate for reducing spending in the K-12 schools is to consolidate school districts to the extent that you could eliminate duplicative expenses associated with having multiple school districts when you could fold those all into, it could be more than two, folded into one. Could be. You just have to look at the state and how that kind of all shakes out. I haven't really done that exercise, but there actually is a committee that the Speaker formed that is doing that work, investigating that possibility right now. We'll see where that lands. And that, like I said, that may or may not yield any results. You know this, for the most part, school districts are going to fight tooth and nail Not just the district personnel, but in many cases, the parents, the families who attend the school, they don't want to consolidate either. So, very difficult, pretty unpopular with a lot of people, popular with a lot of people. But again, that should also be accompanied by, okay, this is what the budget looks like now for the target schools that would consolidate. This is what it would look like post-consolidation. That work should be done as well.
I think one of the simplest ways to implement a policy that would reduce wasteful spending at any level of governance from the state down would be to require documentation or to have a requisition process in place if any entity under the governance of the Magnolia State tries to use any of its budget within the last 3 months of the calendar year.
I got you.
Because what happens up and down the org chart is you get to the last quarter and it's use it or lose it budget time.
Yeah.
Oh, no. We have an extra $3,000 to budget for paper this time. We got to spend $3,000 on paper that's going to sit in a closet and get forgotten about, and next year we're going to order more.
So converting to zero-based budgeting would do a lot. So somebody got mad that I said I was laughing at old people asking and suggesting things about their taxes. It wasn't old people, just so you'll know. It was someone who I found it rather amusing that they thought they didn't know the distinction between, or thought there was a distinction between real estate and real property taxes. They're the same thing. That was why I was laughing. You misunderstood me totally. Coming right back.
Properly set all controls before recording.
All systems go. The talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays, final segment. Appreciate you joining us today. So, Romy, I apologize, man. That wasn't what I was trying to do whatsoever. That as I was just explaining to you, my kind of laughter there was people go to social media and just say stuff regularly, and they're trying to say things and be part of the conversation, but they're not willing to do any degree of research or try to understand or learn things so that they can form an informed opinion. And I think all too often in our country, we speak first and we think later. And social media, I believe, has kind of energized that. It's always been, to some extent, human nature. I'm guilty of it too. But I think with social media, man, and this stuff, kind of stuff.
Back to the toaster lover analogy or example. There was a point in time where just a few generations ago, if you were in love with toasters, like had romantic feelings for toasters, your best bet to find somebody else that had an abiding love for toasters was print out a little flyer and put it on the corkboard at the local library with a tear-off tab with your phone number on it, and just hope somebody within a 50-mile radius goes to the same library and has the same abiding love for toasters. Nowadays, you can get on the internet and find a whole community of 10,000 people from around the world that love toasters more than you do. And it gives you a sense of community, and it gives you a sense of confidence. And you start talking glowingly about your love for toasters and how you have plans to marry your toaster. And it seems completely normal until you talk to anybody outside of that group. And they start looking at you like you've got two heads all of a sudden.
That's a great analogy. And I guess that this particular account, Donald Trump for president, you know what they're trying to do here to get attention and clicks and likes and stuff and monetize, is they're trying to get people to think that this is information that's flowing from the president. And it's not. This is just an individual or individuals who set this account up. Certainly there's no proposal at the federal level to eliminate property taxes. I'm not sure if that's even legal. I don't know that if that wouldn't violate the 10th Amendment. But in general, that needs to come at the local level. It's school districts and counties and municipalities who levy property taxes, and that's where that request needs to be made. I don't know of any who have said, yeah, I'm for less revenue coming into my county, into my school district, into my city, and that's where we have the power of the ballot box to elect those who would see fit to implement those reforms of reducing property taxes. I just went through the exercise of replacing car tags, starting with that. I haven't actually looked at real property taxes. You know that the sales tax increment required to replace that would be higher than car tags. I suspect it would be. And I don't know how popular that is, honestly. That means every time you buy something, you're paying more. I think most people would say, no, I don't want to implement a so-called tax swap. I don't want to pay more sales taxes to eliminate property taxes on vehicles or real property, houses. I just want less tax. I do too. But the folks who run these counties and cities and school districts would say, well, we can't deliver the services that you're demanding with significantly lower revenue. And that's where it becomes a conundrum. So I think it's incumbent upon us to show up at these school board, county supervisor meetings and city council meetings and express our desire to see them cut down on property taxes. It's a hated tax. I don't like it either. Completely agree.
It's going to be a hard sell to have any kind of carve out for any particular age group, though, because you're leaving the other age group holding the bag.
Totally right. And that's exactly right. And a lot of people are saying, well, gee, once my kids are out of school, I don't want to pay property taxes. That means you'd have to raise them on the people who do have kids in school, yet the people who are getting the break didn't pay higher when their kids were in school. You know what I'm saying. Out of here today, back tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.